Hi everyone, welcome to Hack Mankind. I'm here with Ashley DePrizio. Now, you'll have heard me say this on several of these talks. Our team write these amazingly well-scripted intro speeches that I am supposed to follow. Fortunately for me, I'm the founder, so I don't have to do it, and no one can tell me off apart from me. So I'm going to give you my version of Ashley's intro. When we founded Hack Mankind, we wanted to reach out to what we called advocates. We wanted to reach out to people that we thought were amazingly positive forces in the world across certain disciplines. And literally, Ashley was our first, last, and only choice when we wanted to reach out for an advocate for feminine energy and feminine empowerment. And that's really what Ashley does and what Ashley embodies. So, Ashley, I apologize that I didn't read the script, but the fact you were my first choice hopefully speaks volumes to everybody out there. So, Ashley, you're going to talk to us today about decisions. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Peter. And that intro was perfect. I feel humbled by it, so thank you so much. Today I actually wanted to title this talk, Decide. And specifically I said, decide, damn it, because there's so many of us that sort of waver around in our lives in what we want and moving forward. And it's like we make a decision, we take a couple steps, and then we come back and we decide. And I've gone through this sort of cycle myself. So the intention for today's talk is to just keep it short and to say, decide what you want, decide what you are worthy of, decide what you deserve, and then become that person. And for those of you who, I think I've mentioned this perhaps on another talk before, but one of my favorite quotes is from Marianne Williamson, and it is, if the woman has a power to create life, she has the power to create a life she wants. And I say that over and over as a reminder to myself, but to all women, because oftentimes we as women, we limit ourselves. We squash our own powerful potential as we waver in the should-dos of life. We have an idea, we have a desire, there's a moment of inspiration, and then there's something that just stops us. Like some sort of story that we aren't worthy, we're not deserving enough, the desire that we want, or the life that we want to create, whatever it is, it's not something that we can have because of our past or because of a story of who we are or because of the current circumstances that we're living in our life. And so my goal here today is for you to understand that operating in the past, comparing yourself to the person that you were a week ago, a month ago, that time that you hit your sister when you were a kid, or the time that, you know, the guy rejected you, or the time that you didn't get the job promotion that you wanted, like that person doesn't exist anymore. Again, that person doesn't exist anymore. There's only the here and the now. So all the rest are just stories, their beliefs, their meanings that we give things because that's just what we do as humans, right? We're programmed that way. In our human form, we are meaning-making machines. We're judging, we're assessing, and we're evaluating. And my invitation for you as you step into your own art of power, you step into empowerment, is that you need to understand that when we talk about empowerment, yes, there's bettering the body and the mind and the emotions and the personality and reprogramming ourselves. And all of that is really beautiful and really helpful. And there's lots of hacks that you can find here on Hack Mankind, not only in this session, but throughout all the other speakers. But true empowerment at its deepest core is that you are already whole and complete. You are power. So let that sink in for just a second here. If you are already whole and complete, if you are already power, then what is actually possible for you? Then what actually can you create, achieve, become, believe, right? So if I had to throw some hacks into this, because that's just what we do here, my hack would be really simple. It's decide what you want. And then remember and decide that you are already worthy, you are already enough, you are already deserving. And if you have to, find somebody. Find somebody who already has the thing that you want and start to embody that person. And look at specifically the ways of being, not the things that they do, but who are they being? Are they being committed? Are they being self-integral? Are they, what is it that they are being, or who do you need to become to be to have the thing that you want? So some of you may be thinking, okay, yeah, how do I do this? Asking me, how do I do this? And the real simple thing is just do it. Like Nike said it perfectly. How do I decide what I want? How do I just do it? Decide in every day, in every moment. Make a choice every 10 seconds if you have to reprogram yourself because you can. Many already have. And to decide that what you want and to move toward that in every second of your life is actually living life. So yes, as I said before, there are hacks to reprogram yourself and to move faster and to release stories and beliefs more efficiently. But the first step is actually to decide. And that is it. That is all. So I kept it super, super short today, Peter. I had a tendency to talk really long. So I'm practicing this new thing of just getting to the point. Damn it.
and it's beautiful, but you were so succinct and so beautiful with it. I almost don't know what to ask you. So what I think I'd like, if you wouldn't mind, is if I'd like to invite you, if I can, to be vulnerable, and give an example of where you've got this right and where you've got it wrong, because it is such simple advice. Just do it. Just do it. And perfection is impossible to humanity. We cannot be perfect, but we can be in momentum. And the people that I think we all admire are the people that are doing stuff. Right? If you look at someone and go, wow, holy, look at all they're doing. Now, if you go through their internal monologue, and I didn't realize, by the way, this is just me, I didn't realize, and I'm going to massively stereotype, I didn't realize that when you talk about voices in your head, that women actually have them. Like, when I got married, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no. I'm like, are you serious? Like, my head is silent at all times. And she's like, what? I'm like, yeah, I don't have a voice in my head. She's like, I've got about 20. I'm like, how can you live in there? It's crazy. So can you like give us like a 2-minute, when did you get this right and when did you get it wrong? Because none of us are perfect.
Yeah. None of us are perfect. And I don't think that there is a right or wrong, right? Like because if there's a lesson, if there's a growth, the only time we get it wrong is if we're continuously doing the same thing in the same self-sabotage cycle over and over again. But so a place where I got it right, I believe, is leaving the cybersecurity world. I worked in cybersecurity for about just over a decade. And I lived in that world because I wanted the money, I wanted the travel, and I thought that it gave me freedom. I thought that I was contributing to the world, but really it was eating away at my soul because I was totally misaligned. And I knew that there was something that I was supposed to be doing. I knew that there was something else, and I wasn't sure, and I wavered back and forth. First I looked at going back to school for nursing. Then I looked at stuff becoming a therapist. Then, it was all people related. And then one day I finally decided I want to coach people. I want to help people and guide people out of the suffering, out of like living in misalignment, because throughout that decade, I went through a lot of different problems, from depression and anxiety to drinking to Bell's palsy. My face is paralyzed. Like, there were a lot of things where I wasn't living in alignment, but each day my decisions were continuously staying in that world because I thought that I had to stay in that world because that's where my identity was. But that was who I was for that period of time. So I decided in September of 2018 that I would be leaving in December. And I did. And I even was lured back in by money from my boss to say, we'll give you another $15,000 plus all your commissions on the renewals that you close. But I had already made a decision to not go back into it. And then I made another decision to say no to the money. And I decided that what I wanted was to be out there in the world working with people and helping people out of their own pain and suffering, and to move into a life of freedom and joy, however they describe that. So for me, I had to say no a bunch of times, and I had to continue to decide throughout 2019, where I wasn't making the big, $6-digit $250,000 in cybersecurity anymore. I kept having to decide that what I wanted and the path that I was on was way more important to me than the money. And I had, even in the moments where I'm like, how am I going to pay this bill or whatever it was, when I did have those moments, I still had to continuously decide and show up and just do it, just move forward. And that's what I did. That was the one that it's just that moving in faster momentum at this point now, a year and a half.
That's beautiful.
Later.
Would you say that it'd be, again, this is a stereotyping thing, but it seems to me that women suffer more from this version of what they should be of society has said you should be this, or you should be that, or you should do this, or you should wear that, and you shouldn't wear this. There seems to be, I think it's a Tony Robbins phrase, you should all over yourself. All right. And it just doesn't seem to exist as much for guys. Is that, am I right in that perception, or is that a white male perception?
Well, I think it might be both. I think it depends on what we talk about. So one of the things, so I am in sexuality and I do transformation through people's like looking at their sexuality and who they are as a human being, because that's oftentimes a part of ourselves that we shut off and that we hold shame and guilt or fear around. And one of the things where men are actually stereotyped of how they should be with their sexuality is that they should like be turned on all the time. That if they see a naked woman in front of them, you know, for those who are cisgendered men, yeah, oh my gosh, she's a turn on. And there's so much that is actually not the case. There are actually different personalities or languages when it comes to our sexuality, but we pigeonhole men into a very specific language. And so there's a lot of men that I come across that say like, I feel like there's something wrong with me or something's off because the traditional ways we portray men in movies and society and everything actually doesn't align. Now that's just one example from my lens of the world. I'd be willing to bet there actually are other ones of you're supposed to be 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, ripped abs, you know, whatever else, you know, drive a truck. I guess that's more for the South, but you know, there are like little things that you are, I think that men fall into too. I just think that for women, it's a lot harsher based off of magazines and websites, you know, magazines, not so much anymore, I guess, but like websites, what is on reality TV, what is portrayed in the news, like it still is all you have to do it all. You have to be the mom, you have to be the professional where you're moving up in the career. You've got to always have your, you know, shit together. Even if you're wearing like your Lululemon and workout gear, you still have to have it all put together. So yeah, I think that it actually goes on both sides, but it's just a matter of how, you know, how deep we want to really dive into it.
I think it's maybe more exacerbated for certainly, and again, this is my personal experience for mothers, because motherhood is such a biological change. If nature is a woman, then nature doesn't like women, right? Because the pre and post, it's just like you're just such a different human being. And talking, you know, I'm married and I love my wife dearly. I'm about to say but, and I don't mean but, full stop. And watching her try and come to terms with being a wife and a mother and an individual, hopefully first, it is near on impossible. Because the kids, I mean, I'm willing to say, okay, I understand and yes, and I respect and but the 3-year-old and 5-year-old, they don't give a toss about her, you know, her personal identity or her sexuality or how she feels or how she looks. They don't care. They're not capable of caring yet. So the demands that they place on her, and therefore I'm going to extrapolate to mothers, is huge. We were never designed to raise children in nuclear units. We're designed to raise them in a tribe, so that we could all support each other. We just don't do that now. So I do feel that, I do think I'm right in saying I think women have a harder time of this expectation. I mean, I talk about this sort of too often, but you know, our baby monitor beeps if it's 2 degrees too cold or 2 degrees too hot. Like our baby monitor judges us. Like literally our baby monitor, it's a piece of equipment, but it's like, oh, it's 2 degrees, 2 degrees. And it starts beeping too hot. And my version of it is I look at it and go, I'm sure they have children in Alaska, and I'm sure they have children in the desert. So I'm sure that this is crap, right? But my wife looks at it and goes, oh, we should put the heating on, we should put the fan on, we should put this, and I'm like, it's a piece of equipment. It's your choice. It's your choice. What do you think?
Yeah.
And I think my wife is a very powerful woman, but even that, just a baby monitor is enough to start her mind into the should I phase. And maybe I'm just either enlightened or dumb or just don't care about what other people think, but I'm like, meh, it's all right.
Yeah, but I think you're spot. So one, you said exactly what I was thinking, is that we used to raise kids in a community. We used to have support. It wasn't just all on the mother and the father, and in some cases just the mother, or some cases just the father, depending on how it happens. I think the other issue is that society pushes on us. You should do this. They create the freaking device that you have there. Why? It's a device for us to question ourselves and to judge ourselves and to think that there's a right way or a wrong way and to disconnect from our intuitive nature. So while I'm not a mother, every human being, and especially every woman, has that inner intuition. And it's not this, and I said this on my call last week, our inner intuition and our true inner guide of what we really need to do and know that your child is actually okay is from the neck down. It's in our heart, it's in our stomach, and it's in our genitals. And if you listen to those three areas, that's where your true intuitive decision making actually is, and your inner trust. And we've been taken away because of society of actually trusting ourselves. And that's where we need to come back to. But
you've reminded me of a first call with our family doctor. We moved 50 miles away, and our family doctor is still this doctor from 50 miles away because that's how much we respect her. And she's called Dr. Austin. And it was when our firstborn, Olivia, was about 2. She had a bit of a rash and a bit of a temperature. And we called her, and as all parents do.
Yeah.
And Dr. Austin said, "Is she okay?" No, that's why we're calling you. She's like, yeah, but is she okay? And she's like, yeah, well, yeah, I mean, she's fine. So why are you calling that? Like, sorry? She said, if your child is still your child, if they are still acting the way they normally act, they are fine. If they are not crying and they normally cry, or they're crying, not crying and they don't normally cry, if their behavior has changed and they're not themselves, right? Well, how are we supposed to, this does not seem very like scientific. Just trust your gut. You know, you know, you just know. Yes. So that literally, my doctors, my, educated, her answer was, you know the answer. It's like, what? Yep. No, seriously? That was literally her answer. That's why she's still our doctor 10 years later, and now we have to drive 50 miles for a checkup, because you don't see that level of experience. And she's older, and I think that's one of the reasons behind it. I think older generations have been more taught to lean into their intuition. And I think now we're, standard data deviation tables that say that the temperature of this room should be 18 degrees centigrade, not 22 or 16. And I'm sure there's good data there. I just think we need to see them as signposts. So let's try and sum this up. Can you give us some final thoughts, and then I'll wrap up?
Yes. And I love the final thought that where we came to here, which is trust yourself. Come back to your own intuition. So make a decision of what you want. Decide over and over again. If you want it, you are worthy of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had the thought in the first place. And then trust yourself. Continuously listen, and not the head, but the rest of your body from the neck down, and just move forward that way. And trust that if you can't trust yourself, trust that God, universe, spirit, divine, Allah, whatever you believe in, that there is a higher source that's guiding you that way. You would, again, like this was so key that one of my mentors actually said to me, is that you wouldn't be here in this world, in this time, doing what you're doing if you were not worthy of doing it, if you weren't deserving of doing it, if you weren't meant to be. So that means for everybody else, like there's something here for you, and just trust it. Decide and trust. That is it.
Beautiful. My final thoughts are 99.8% of the body mass inside me and Ashley are exactly the same. And yet we decide constantly to focus on the 0.2%, whether we're talking about color or talking about religion or talking about gender. We are fixated as human beings on focusing on what makes us different. But you take the most successful person on this planet, in whatever field it is that you want to be in, they literally share 99.8% with you. If they can do it, I'm pretty damn sure you can. The difference is between those that can and those that can't, or those that do and those that don't, is they made the decision to do it. So go and decide, and listen to Ashley. Ashley, you've been amazing as per usual. Thank you very much to both you and everybody that watches this. You've been listening to Peter Swain and Ashley DePrizio of www.hackmankind.com. Sign up, log in, look at the rest of our content, and get involved. Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks, Peter.